Welcome. This is our Microsoft 365 look at managing tasks with Outlook, To-Do, Planner, and Teams. I'm Dawn Bjork with K-Squared Technologies. Thanks for joining us on this in-depth look at how we can really make the most of these Microsoft 365 tools. I want you to consider for a moment, how are you currently managing your important tasks and projects? One of the challenges of being productive and getting things done more easily is we have so many different options for managing them. It could be anything from an Excel spreadsheet to something you've cobbled together in Outlook, or something you have manually, or who knows, lots of different options. But they may not be really leveraging the tools that are available or saving you as much time as possible. So let's explore these options in Microsoft 365. First of all, with Microsoft 365, we have some built-in task and project management options. In Outlook, these include tasks, which are the traditional way that we're used to working with them, and To-Do. We're going to talk more about that. The thing to keep in mind as we look at this tour is that these are included in Microsoft 365 and they work well together. So To-Do is the choice that I'm going to recommend for you from this point out for your personal task. And as you'll see, it will also connect and integrate with projects that you have as well. So that's one of the things that will be really key for you as we explore this. And one of the things to know about To-Do is it's not only supported in Outlook, but it's also something we can separately run in a browser, and we can connect with it through Teams. So that's why we really want to move to that direction versus our traditional Outlook tasks, which are still available to us. Planner is another application that's available through Microsoft 365, as well as through an app that's called Task by Planner and To-Do. So that is an app that lets us work with the plan portion from Microsoft Teams. So Planner is for smaller, more informal projects. But this is a really handy way for us to manage projects where there are multiple people involved. And there may be multiple people that are sharing a particular task, or where we have different team members that are responsible for different elements of a particular project. So all of these then kind of flow through the Microsoft 365 environment back and forth. And you'll see this as we continue this tour. So let's go ahead and look at how these things work in real time to make sure that you're managing your tasks and projects from the best place possible. And first of all, let's go and move into and look at Outlook. So in Outlook, and feel free, by the way, to drop any questions you have into the chat, as you know, if there's something you'd like me to clarify for this. In Outlook, I'm looking at what's called the new experience. And what that means is that we see our primary Outlook elements on the left-hand side in this rail. Now, if you are not seeing that, if you're seeing those options at the bottom of your screen, then you will have, we'll say, one of the more in traditional environment. The new experience may be available to you from a coming soon in the upper right-hand corner, although that's going to be been phased out for a lot of people. So if you have the new experience, then that means that you have access to To-Do directly from Outlook. And that is one of the things that it may be something that's implemented over time in your organization. Well, what that means here is that I have my inbox, my calendar, my contacts. Here are my traditional tasks and to do. Now, if you have, we'll say, the more traditional environment, then you can still get to do from your Office login from your browser. So I don't want you to rule out using to do, even if you might not be seeing that yet. So let's look at this. We have our traditional task, and you are still able to utilize this in working with it. So here, for instance, I have an upcoming task for a meeting with Alan on the IT budget. However, the thing to know about to do is that it will also pull these tasks in. So you don't have to recreate them. Any task you have created already, you can work with them, but there's so much more that's available to us. So here, for instance, is that task. But I can also flag particular tasks as important. So if there was something that I wanted to flag, let's just say that that is an important one over here on the right-hand side, I can flag this. And by the way, this is exactly how the environment looks if we're viewing it from the browser. So it will be really easy for us to integrate and move from that. We also, however, are able to see different tasks that have been assigned to me. So these are coming from Planner. And so this helps us to be able to get a bigger picture of what's coming up, what we really have to manage in terms of working with these different options. So you might have your own personal task, but you also then have these various to-do items that may have been created through various projects, which we're going to look at in more detail. Let's go back to our inbox for just a moment. Here I have an email where I've been asked to review a proposal, and it's something that I might not be able to look at right away based upon my schedule today, but it is something that needs to be approved by Thursday. And so I want to have that be something that maybe I can look at tomorrow. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to flag it for follow-up. This is not a new feature, but it's something that you may have used before. And here I'll flag it for tomorrow. Now, in addition, I've created a folder here in my favorites in Outlook for to do. You could call it pending or give it other names, but that's the idea of this, that I want to get my inbox cleared out where I have otherwise I have too much going on. And so I'm going to put this into that to-do folder. Now, keep in mind, by calling it to-do, it doesn't have anything to do with the to-do portion of it. That's just the label that I have for that. So I'm able to refer to it and find it. Now let's go ahead and look at to-do. Here I have my flagged emails. So any email that I flag would show up here. And you can see that I have this option here. Then this is my email, and I would be able to open that up right from here. I can select it and you can see open in Outlook. So I would be able to actually get to it regardless of where it might be stored. I could also flag this as important. The other thing to know is that we have in to do this my day. So my day means that this is simply where you can assign particular items that you would like to get done in that day. And if something has a deadline, let's say for tomorrow, then tomorrow it will automatically move into that. But you could have other things as well. So maybe I have this option here, create Excel list. Well, I think I've got some time for that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add it to my day. and it will show up for today. So that is an optional way for you to manage it as well. But those are some of the things where tasks are only in Outlook and to do goes across your applications. And so that gives us a lot more flexibility. The other thing to keep in mind is to do will go across different devices. So you can have the to-do app on your phone, for instance, and although it won't be quite as robust, you would be able to view those to-do items and manage them from your phone, from tablet, from iPad, from a desktop or a laptop. And you can do it from your login to your browser. So there's lots of different ways that we can manage these, whereas the task really limited within Outlook. So that's one of the things I would encourage you to look at first of all. So let's look a little bit more about what To-Do offers us from an organization perspective as well. Not only do we have these different ways to manage these elements, but we can also create these to-do items and put them into various categories. Now we can also flag them with categories. So keep in mind that that is an Outlook feature, but it's something that we could flag so that we could filter or sort with that. But here what I'm going to do is I'm going to create I could have a new list, but I could also, what I could also do here, well, let's go ahead and create this list if it will decide to create. There we go. Okay. And let's say that I have this as performance reviews. So I could set that up as a particular list that I want to create or put various actions within that. So I could duplicate the list, delete it, etc. Okay. I could also create a group. Now that you think of that as like, if you look at the hierarchy of folders, that is a bigger component to that. So this might be management. Okay. And what I will do is I'm going to drag this list into it. So you have the option of a new list or a new group. And so for instance, then we could go further with that. Then I could have a group called marketing. And I could create a new list. Maybe this is for proposals. And that could be moved into marketing. Now, these are just different ways for you to also view these to-do items. That is, you're able to organize them in a way that's helpful for you in working with it. Not that I have to, but I could take this to-do item for the proposal and it's still flagged, but I could also move it into the proposals too. So I'm just organizing these in different ways. And then this becomes a way for me. It still has that due date of tomorrow, but you decide how you want to organize. And that's the idea, is that you have a lot of flexibility in terms of working with that. And let's just say that I want to create to do here. And I could say, for instance, schedule team performance reviews. Okay. Now, once I've created that, let's look over on the right-hand side here. The other thing that is really helpful with To Do, which really didn't have this clarity in task, is I could add a step. So you might have a bigger to-do item, but it really is something that needs to be broken down into multiple steps so that you're not just, that is all the things that are needed for you to be able to say that that is completed. So that's another thing to explore in terms of how you work with it. If it has a lot of steps, it might be something that goes into Planner, which we'll look at as well. So definitely, let me know how I can, if there's anything you'd like me to clarify. So I'm going to set a due date for this. And I'm going to pick a date. You can see I have some built-in options, but I'll pick a date and just say that I'm going to schedule that on next Monday, and I'll choose save here. I could also then pick a category. So you can see here, I could use the options of different categories or build those or create those and even add notes to that. So that is another way for us to be able to work with it. And the idea then is that we're able to create these from flagged emails directly. And as you'll see, they also can be created through Teams or from Planner. That is the idea then with To Do. And hopefully that gives you kind of a sense of what's possible in terms of working with it as we continue. Now let's go ahead then and look at this. I'll come back here to my inbox, but let's look at this from our Office login. And so with this then, I'm going to go to, here I'm logged into my office.com login. And if I look at the waffle, here are my different applications, one of which is To Do. So here is To Do from my browser. And you'll see that it looks quite similar, basically the same here. Here I have my performance reviews. I have the flagged email that was set up. I have various options that I had set up as important. That is, we're seeing exactly the same kind of information with our groups, our list, all of that to make this simple for us. And To Do has been part of your Outlook, your online or web-based Outlook for quite some time in replacing tasks. But in our desktop app, then we see both Task and To Do. Hopefully that clarifies and doesn't confuse things, but that's one of the things that we have there as well. So one of the things you'll also notice here is that we will be provided with suggestions, things that might be important, potential tasks. So even if I hadn't flagged that email, because of we'll say that the natural language or the artificial intelligence reviewing that, it says, please review. So it sees that that's a possibility of something you might add. So I could also add that to my day as an option, but I already have that set up. And then we see some earlier projects, and we see some upcoming ones. So if we look, for instance, at what's planned, we can see what we've got coming up for us. We also see some things that are overdue, so that it can give you a sense of how to work with it. So if you do not currently have the new experience in Outlook, you can still work with To Do from your browser and start leveraging it as a better way for you to manage things rather than your scraps of piece of paper or third-party applications and things that are working better together. So that's one of the things that we have here. Now let's go ahead and look at some of these planned options here. These are coming from, many of these are coming from a plan from Planner, and you can see the name of the plan, like event plan, employee handbook, and we're going to see some of these as we continue here. So know that that's going to be part of our tour here of these applications that will help you manage tasks and projects. And so here, for instance, I have this main deck review. Now, I could change the due date on that. I could open it up in Teams to see it in more detail. I could see who else has been assigned that as well. I could add steps to it. So there's a number of different things that I could do in terms of working with that. So that is just one of the options that we have. Or you can see some other things that have been set up for future projects. And let's just say, for instance, we've got some duplicates here, but let's just say that I have already accomplished this. I will simply select it and it becomes completed. So we can review completed tasks, but at this point, now I'm able to manage what I've got coming up. So hopefully that gives you a kind of a quick look at what's possible. Now I want to go back here just for a moment to Outlook, because I do want you to see that if I'm in my task, then these things that I've set up are showing still as task, but I'm not seeing everything else from Planner. I do see, for instance, these categories, these list performance reviews and proposals. So those will show up there too. However, we don't see the full picture that we would if we're in To Do. All right. Now, what about Planner? Well, if you have smaller projects, it isn't necessary to go to Microsoft Project or some big robust application. Planner might be all you need. It is also another Microsoft 365 application. And here we are in Planner. And with that, then we already have some existing plans here, and some of the ones that are key to me, I have pinned, so they show right up here in this hub. But we can see other plans that we might have from this. I can look at all the plans where I have some involvement in them, where I have some different tasks that are part of it. Now, some of these plans were actually created in Teams. And that's going to be my recommendation to you, that even though we have the Planner app here, and this is how we can manage them, that we want to create all of our plans in Teams. I'll show you how to do that. If there's a possibility that you might want to access or manage them in Teams. The reason why I say that is that if we create a plan here, it is currently very difficult for us to access it from Teams later. And that might change, but I want to give you that heads up. That is, if I don't want you to put in all the work here and then want to share it with a channel in Teams and then run into challenges with that. So the whole idea is that we can create the structure of a plan in Teams and continue managing it there, and or manage it here. So once again, we're working in our browser in the Planner application. So here we have Employee Handbook, we have a Mark 8 project plan, which I'll show you as well in Teams. And let's just take a moment and look at that Mark 8 project plan. So first of all, I know that this is a plan that is in Teams, because you'll see here that it's a linked plan and I can open it in Microsoft Teams. But I want to share with you then kind of the structure that we have here. So what we're looking at here are these Kanban boards. And these boards, you can think of them as basically these buckets where these various main categories have been set up for this particular plan. And then with that, then we have the various tasks that have been created. I'll show you more about this when we move to Teams. But from this, then we have various tasks that have been assigned to different people with us. And it could just be as simple as saying, okay, I want to add a task, and this could be I'm just going to create something simple here and say that that is going to be assigned to one of our, you'll see one of our members. So only the people that are part of the, what you'll see here, that are part of the team where this plan is accessible, then they will see that. So that's one of the things to keep in mind as well. So here, I'm going to go ahead here and assign this task to Adele. So Adele has this task, and it would show up in to do for her. And she would have that be one of the tasks that she has. And then, of course, we have others as well. She would get a pop-up that has it assigned, that this has been assigned. Now, we have other, and in many cases, you can see here that multiple people have been assigned various tasks with that. Now, if I wanted to see some different options here, let's say here, this is the project team formed. I'm Megan. I could click on this and I could see more details. So from here, I could say it's currently in progress. We would be able to change the status of this, for instance. We could change the start date for it. We could assign somebody else to it as well. We could add other key notes to this, for instance. And I realized I did not, whoops. I just took myself off of that one. There we go. I was assigned to it. I realized in this case, I did not mark it as completed. I could do that inside of that, but what I'll do simply here is mark this as completed. And so now it shows up as a completed task below. Okay, so we can see those options here. Now, the other thing that can happen here is that Adele could have those same, she'll have those same to-do items. And so one of the things that could happen for her is that she has a lot of things. All right, so let's see, for instance, all right, well, I don't want to, there we go. I don't want it to take up more time from your busy schedule with this, but if she marks this as complete from her end, it would also show up to me. That's the thing that I want you just to see in terms of working with that. So it doesn't, we're able to have a live dynamic way of viewing that. And another one of our plans here is our employee handbook. And we can see that we have some various ways to view that too. So I'll share that more so for you in just a moment. But in our views, we can also go to a grid view. So this is another way for us to see who has, who's been assigned, what do we have coming up, what are the due dates for that, what's the progress on that in working with that. We also can, and I'll go back to this Mark 8 project plan, we can also view things from a charts perspective. So this is great from a reporting for you to be able to see exactly how, where things are, what we've got coming up, anywhere from priorities to, responsibilities. And so it gives us a really good visual picture of that. And we can even see these things in terms of a calendar, or even by those different categories, our various buckets. So that is once again a different ways for us to view or work with the planner app to really give us a good handle of that. So I mentioned that we're viewing this from planner, but we could also see this in Teams. and we could view it in that way. The thing to keep in mind is that when we're on the to-do side of it, we're going to be seeing all of the different tasks or items that have been created for us that have been assigned to you, regardless of how they came about, regardless of what the plan is. Whereas here we're seeing it each individual plan for that. So I'll show you in Teams how we can also work with that. So here again, we've got our to-do, our planner, and how can we integrate those and work with them in Teams. So some different options for us in terms of how we work with it. Now, here again, keeping in mind that, as I mentioned, this is actually a plan that was originated in Teams. I can view it here from Planner. I can also view it from Teams. You decide what makes sense in terms of how this works for you. That is where you want to view this. But it's important to keep in mind that if we want to create a plan that other people might, that we might want to access in Teams, we should create it in Teams. So let's look at that. So here in Teams, I'll share with you a couple of those different plans. What we've got here is that in a channel called Go to Market Plan, the channels could be anything you want, and you do not have to create a channel just for that plan. You might have a channel related to different projects or just a kind of a part of your organization. But what's happened here is that we have a tab that was created in the channel for that Mark 8 project plan. So I'll show you how these things work as we move along. So here is that Mark 8 project plan, which we saw earlier, and we're accessing it through a channel tab. Now, what that means then is that anybody who's on that team would be able to view this. So we don't have the ability to, if you have we'll say a private or a more confidential type project, you may have to create a separate team for that because private channels don't support plans at this point. Everyone who needs to be involved in this project would need to be part of the team. Now, it doesn't mean that everyone that is in the team would necessarily be involved in this project, but in terms of being able to assign and work with it, that would be one of the things that's important. So here we have these various tasks that are part of this project. And once again, we can see then our list, who it's assigned to, the boards, the charts, and the schedule. So what we saw before from our web-based version of plan. So this is one of the ways for us to view that. Now you may be familiar with, but just to share that channel tabs can be for applications, they can be for files. So there's a lot of flexibility there. And it gives us quick, easy access to key things that we have. Let's look at our other example here. Here is the employee handbook. This has been put into a separate channel where it is a channel tab. And so these are the tasks involved with the creation of an employee handbook. And with this, let's say that I want And we'll look at how we could create or add some other tasks and work with this a little bit further. But I do want to show you how to create a plan from scratch. That is, it's all great to look at these examples, but what if you want to do something from scratch? So first of all, what you want to do is move to wherever it is that you want to build this. So it could be in this current location. It could be, let's just say it's part of the Mark 8 project team. Now, what I'll do here is I'll go ahead and create a brand new channel. Now, I could also add it to an existing one. Maybe just for simplicity, we'll just go to an existing one here. I think we'll create a brand new one. So let's just come in here and we'll go ahead and add a channel and call this IT implementation. Okay, now it means anybody that's on the team would be added to that channel or would have access to that channel. Now, I could have a lot of different projects that are going on here and communications that wouldn't necessarily have to be just for this project. Well, what I want to do then is I'm going to create a new plan and I'm going to go to the plus here, add a tab. Now, what we're looking for is an app called Task by Planner and To Do. That happens to be showing right up at the top of the list because it was most recently used. However, you can also search for it here. And you can see that there are other applications that are third-party programs for handling tasks and projects, but this one comes with Microsoft 365. So I'm going to add this one to that channel. Now, I have a couple options here. I could, in this particular team, I could add, that is just for clarification, I could add one of these existing plans, but I want to create a new plan. So I could add an existing plan that's already in this team. Hopefully that doesn't make that too confusing, that is, but there already are some plans like we saw the go-to-market plan. But in this one, I want to call this so this is going to be a new project that we have to implement some new software, and it is not an existing plan. I'll go ahead and I could post to the channel about adding that, and I'll go ahead and say. So as I mentioned, if you want to be able to access these plans from Teams, then create them in Teams first, and you can see them in Planner as well. Now, I always have the option, here it is, I could always rename this. So maybe I realize that that's going to be way too, that's going to take up too much room. And so I might just call this Axiom and then save this. Okay. But here I see this as a channel tab, and it's a planner. Here's my first bucket. Well, okay, so I can rename these buckets, whatever I want to call them. And so create project team or implementation. Okay, and I'm going to set the due date. And let's say that should be by next Friday. Who's responsible? Well, I'm going to go ahead and take that responsibility. And I need to work with the IT director. So I'll go ahead and add that task. So we have created this. We have a bucket for it. We have a task. We've assigned it. We can always go into it to, that is really kind of a high priority because we can't really do much else unless we have that. I could add a label to this. Now, labels by default, and you'll see those in some of the other examples we have, they just start off with colors. And so with this, then we could reassign one of these colors, like relabel it. And I might just come in here and say, okay, instead of calling it cranberry, okay, I'm going to just label that. And you could come up with others as well, but I'm going to pick that particular one. And we'll go ahead and close this. So I've made some changes to it. I've changed the priority, I've given it label. And why do we care about the labels? Because we can filter by different options. We can filter by priorities. We can filter by buckets and so on. So that's the idea of creating a plan and then also managing a plan. Now let's go back to something where we already have some particular task. And once again, I'll come back to this employee handbook with us. So this is where I could add some different options for us. And maybe I'll come to this particular one and I want to add a label to it. So I'll move to this one and I want to flag anything where human resources might need to be involved with some of these particular communications. So that is one of the things there. And once again, then I could filter by different labels that we have. So I could just say, well, filter by human resources. There we go. That's all we have. And I could clear those. But the flexibility is pretty amazing in terms of how you can work with these things and how you, what are your options in terms of using that. So with that, then we've looked at some of our, let's say that we want to do another task here and legal. Once again, I just add the task and this could be to, actually I'll add it over here instead. And this will be to compile notes on previous version, set my due date. So hopefully you can see how straightforward this is in terms of working with it. And I'll add that task. So at any point, for instance, if something like that comes up, then all I have to do here, let's say that I'm Adele, I could mark that as complete. And that would be one of the things then that we would see. That is, we would see that, you know, as it refreshes, then that would end up coming up for us to be able to view that. So that's just one of the things I want you to see. Now, also know that any kind of channel tab, we can pop it out. So you can have that in a different window if you want to. If you're spending a lot of time with it and you're still managing it from Teams, but you would be able to then give that a different window. So that is just in this drop down for any channel tab, whether it's a file or a plan or otherwise. So that becomes another option for us. So those are some of the things that I would encourage you to explore in terms of working with your plans and in working with that. Now, here's one of the things that can really be helpful for you as well from teams. And the idea here is that, well, I've got this employee handbook, I've got the go-to-market, I might have a lot of different plans. And this is where, this is one of the challenging things we can have with teams. We have too many teams, too many channels, too many things going on. And so what would be the easiest way for us to be able to work with it? Well, one of the things that you might consider is pinning this application to your rail. What does that mean? Well, I'm going to go over here to the left-hand side and go to the ... And I can search for any application. In this case, it's going to be my task by planner. So I'm simply going to put that here in my rail. Now, while it's here as well, I'm going to right-click here and pin it. But notice I could also pop this out into a separate window. By pinning, it means it will stick. It will stay here. Now, why is this helpful? Now I'm able to, keep in mind, here's the name, Task by Planner and To Do. I'm able to view all of my to-do items organized by different options, including the plans. And so with that, then, I can see everything that's been assigned to me and where it's coming from. So I can see what plan has initiated that. And that can make it a lot easier for me to plan my day, to be able to keep track of what I have, to be able to have progress reports, to go in and make any updates to these as well. So here I have assigned to me. Here's what's planned, very much the same option here, but we're able to see then all of these different options so we have them kind of in one place and in Teams for that. And notice even those lists that were created in To Do are here. So Task by Planner and To Do in Teams is a way to create a real centralized portal for all of these different options that you have. And we can even see our tasks that may have come up, our older tasks that are set up in Outlook. So you don't necessarily have to recreate them in To Do. You may choose to, but know that from this point forward, it might make a whole lot more sense for you to create those in To Do. And we certainly have the option to create, new tasks and to be able to organize them in any way we'd like. Plus, we can look at, for instance, these shared plans. So if I want to, I can go right to this particular plan and see that from this pinned application. So I can break it into those particular categories. So that's the idea then of managing it from the team side of it, so it can really become a centralized portal. It's not just for chat and for meetings, but it's also as another way for us to really handle this communication and to be able to come into one place for all of that. So let's kind of move backwards through this flow of what we've created. We have managed some of these plans, and even created a new one here in Teams. Let's go back to Planner. So here in Planner, I'm viewing it through my browser, and here I have that employee handbook, Mark 8, I've pinned those, but notice here's the one that I just created a few moments ago. I see that plan that was created in Teams. So I'm still able to access that. And if this is how I want to manage it, I can manage it from this point forward. But the fact that I've created it in Teams means it's accessible from Teams. If I create it from here, then the decision has been made that the only place I would see that is in Planner. Now, that would be true then for other people that are involved in that plan. They could go to Planner and they would be able to see any of their actions and tasks. But that application for us to be able to see the task by Planner and to do is really gives us that great umbrella over these possibilities. And then here I come back to do, and I can see that I have, here is that action item from that software implementation project, create project team for implementation. And that is showing up as a planned action for me in to do. It's up to you to decide how you want to view that. You can see these as separate applications and work with them that way, or from the team's perspective, be able to see them from more of a system perspective and be able to manage your actions as well as those of others. So finding out then really, what makes sense for you in terms of how you would work with it. So which of the tools is best for you? Well, you'll probably want to use the task for Planner and to do in Teams if you prefer that larger view. And it gives you just a chance to be able to see things from that perspective, especially if you're involved in a lot of different deliverables and to-do items. And maybe you're also responsible for assigning a lot of tasks to other people. So that it's also helpful if you work with Microsoft Teams every day and it's kind of your central hub. It makes sense for that to be your big picture. But it might be that you spend most of your time in to do instead, because that is just more of a way for you to focus just on those tasks that are yours. And especially because you'll also see those from, your mobile app and otherwise. So for instance, if I come in here to and I'm back in Outlook, here is my to do. And you may find that this is just, this makes the most sense for you in terms of how you view it and how you work with it, because you're spending probably a good part of your day already in Outlook. It's not a right or wrong. It's knowing what makes the most sense for the kinds of projects and tasks that you have. How can you simplify maybe what you're already doing and creating a more streamlined, more organized way of viewing this information in a way that makes sense for you. So this may, this may be where you want to spend your time working with that, but you can, view it from the browser. You can view it from Teams. You can view it here from Outlook. All sorts of different possibilities in terms of what's possible for you. So now that you've seen these, which of these applications are you planning to explore in more detail? You can see how we have this flow for these various projects and tasks in terms of how these work for us. We have lots of different possibilities in terms of where we want to go with that. Well, I'd say the first thing is to explore whether or not you have the new experience available to you. So look for that under the coming soon, and it may be something where you can implement it if it's not currently set up for you. If you don't have the new experience, then go right log into your web browser and just log into your office.com login and then start exploring it from there. And then also consider how Teams might be a great way for you to manage these key options and applications for you in working with it. Hopefully that's giving you some insights into what's possible. This particular session, this webinar is part of the K-Score Technologies monthly training series. So we offer these training webinars once a month on the second Tuesday of the month. Coming up, we will be exploring Outlook, productivity tips with email in February, and continuing that exploration by also touching on what's available in calendar, task, and more. So you've already seen a little bit of how really tasks are transforming in terms of working with to-do. We'll also explore in those sessions then how we can integrate and work more closely with Outlook and Teams. And then coming up in April, we'll explore some of the top productivity tips for working with Microsoft Excel. So look for those emails from K-Score Technologies so that you can register for these and be able to find more ways to be more productive, make your software applications a lot easier to work with. So that's been our exploration today on managing tasks and projects in Microsoft 365. I hope you will continue to join us this year on this adventure as we look for more ways for you to be more productive and simplify all of these applications that are available to you. Let us know how we can help you to be more productive. Please reach out to us at K-Score Technologies for IT services and consulting to support you with Microsoft Technologies. Thanks for joining us.